All right, welcome to a morning video. Rare but special morning videos. Perhaps the best kinds of videos of them all. So, situational awareness by Leopold Aschenbrenner. We're getting into the plan. So the author has a plan. He outlined everything that's going to happen over the next decade. He's making the case that it's not going to be pretty at all. We can expect World War III. A lot of people say that we either are currently in or are. I mean when you look at some of the things around the world, like the war in Ukraine, it's trench warfare. If you watch some videos of the only reason we're not in a world war right now is because of the involvement from the world, right? So like there is the war in Ukraine is very much a war. There's no other way to describe it. So um, and so you know, imagine if one side or even both sides started, using artificial intelligence as a weapon, and I'm sure I'm sure that that's already kind of occurring. So like, the author is saying that we can expect really dire circumstances in the next few years, as part of the disruption that superintelligence will cause, especially for those who want to use it for purposes like invasion, domination, those sorts of things. So he makes the case that uh, it's going to happen for sure. There's no way around it. If we were able to get from the underlying technology of ChatGPT in the amount of years that it took, so we went from GPT-2 to GPT 4.0 for ChatGPT. That only took a few, like 5 years. So what are the next 5 years going to look like? It's not like ChatGPT 4 was the end of the line. It's just a step along the way of this massive growth of the technology. So it's going to expand by 2 orders of magnitude from what it is now. Yeah, and possibly even a lot more. Certain elements of it are going to expand a lot more than that. So we've got some challenges. This is all based on data centers. This is based on graphics cards, like for your computer when you play games on. But instead of what's the latest gaming graphics card? So the latest gaming, if you want to play the latest games, here you go. GeForce RTX 3060, about $300. You could also get one that's not Nvidia, I think, or well, $300. There you go. That's what you need to play the latest games at the highest settings. You need to buy a graphics card like this. Well, what do you need to play the latest AI? You need a graphics card as well. So you can get a Nvidia A100, which is a fine graphics card. Around $8,000, decent price. It looks like some come in around to $20,000, but for the most part, it looks like a A100. Now this one's a little bit different. I don't know why it's so much more expensive, but for the most part, you should expect to pay, you know, around 10,000, less than 20. Seems like a decent deal, but you're going to be behind. What you really need is these H100s. So now they're $30,000. That's about what it'll cost. and these all have low reviews because there's a lot of people making, cracking jokes on these because they know what they're used for. So like this one, we could probably see that these are two joke reviews. So let's take a look. Yeah, so this is a joke. Despite how powerful this is, it can be used for the next generation of AIs. The joke is that it can't run, some game that's notorious for not being able to run smoothly. And then, yeah, and so it's, a lot of these have low reviews because people understand what they're for, and they make jokes. So like you can think of it like if we were back in it's a really weird time because you can think of it like the race to the atom bomb, except not only is it not secret, you can buy the atom bomb components yourself on Amazon. I mean, that's the kind of time we're in right now. It's absolutely crazy. You can literally just buy this yourself. Anyone can just buy the components that are going into building super intelligence. Now, what can you do with it? That's where these jokes are. There's really nothing you can do with it. This is going to be a $1 trillion per year industry in the next few years. And the reason is because in order to use these things, you need massive, power-hungry data centers. So there's going to be all kinds of investment in data centers. There already is all kinds of investments in data centers. One thing I noticed during my 8 months of unemployment is time and time again what kept popping up is data center postings. Like, what is going on in this data center space? And that was last year. What was going on was AI race, and it's only going to grow. This is nothing. It's in the next few years, you want to get a job in tech, it's all going to be data centers and basically nothing else. So I've been inspired by this reading to learn the CCNP data center. And one last thing I'll say, because I don't want to waste time here, I want to get some reading done, is I read, what I do is I read the book out loud to the AI, and then we have a discussion about the section I just read afterwards. I've been doing personal growth questions. I've been doing psychological style mindfulness FFMQ exercises with it. It's already like really helping me live a better life. I use it to put things on my calendar. So I got a car maintenance done that I've been blowing off for months and months and months. I got that on my calendar and I got it done. It's really, as it is in its current form, operating at the level of a particularly bright high school student, but not nearly at the level quite yet of like a world-class PhD researcher. Who wouldn't benefit from a particularly bright intern working at their workplace. Like that's just helpful. It's just super helpful. Now, can it solve all your problems? No, it's not quite bright enough yet, but it will be in a few months. So with that, let's read about the plan that the author has for all of this. So the project. As the race to AGI intensifies, the national security state will get involved. The United States government, sound check, will wake from its slumber, and by 27-28 will get some form of government AGI project. No startup can handle superintelligence. Somewhere in a skiff, the endgame will be on. I mean, that's kind of optimistic. I feel like the fact that he has to say that it will wake from its slumber, the fact that it's in such a slumber is really concerning. 27, 28 depends on who is in office. So I feel like it's more likely, depending on the outcome of the election, that this sort of thing could happen as late as 2010, like when the next administration is in, or even later than that, depending on if a second term. So I guess I'll be more transparent. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to. This is not a political channel. This is not a channel to express my political thoughts. We're focused in, so I really don't like to talk about this. But I am concerned that if Trump is elected, we'll see something kind of like with the pandemic, where the United States government will not awake from its slumber, and months or longer will go by, and we won't have some form of government AGI project at all. So that is my concern. So I'm just being transparent about that. I really fear for the future of my country. I'm actually, like I'm having a little bit of a panic attack right now. So let's just focus on the reading and really not think about that. Okay, so we must be curious to learn, and I might need to take a quick break, a little bit of a break. We must be curious to learn how such a set of objects, hundreds of power plants, thousands of bombs, tens of thousands of people, massed in national establishments, can be traced back to a few people sitting at laboratory benches discussing the peculiar behavior of one type of atom. Yeah, so the author is all about the atom bomb, which is a great analogy for where we are today. So this is Spencer R. Wirt, and I've never heard of Spencer R. Wirt, so let's get a brief summary of who this person is. And let's use ChatGPT, because this is the best tool we have. We could do a Google search, but give me a brief summary of who Spencer R. Wirt is. But you can't beat this.
Spencer R. Wirt is an American physicist and historian of science. He is known for his work on the history of physics and climate change science. Wirt served as the director of the Center for History of Physics at the American Institute of Physics from 1974 to 2009. He has authored several books, including The Discovery of Global Warming, which explores the history and development of climate science. Wirt has also contributed to the public understanding of science through his research writings and efforts to preserve historical records in the field of physics.
Okay, so sorry about that. My my output was not properly configured. So he's just an atom bomb guy. Oh no, he's not. So he's a Oh, this is interesting. He's actually not an atom bomb guy. It looks like he's a so yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah, so he's more of a look at like so he wasn't old enough to be an atom bomb guy. So he's alive and well today. Looks like he's so he's a Cornell guy. So the author he's probably a professor to the author. Boulder, Colorado, really like that town. So he's definitely not a a historic, Oppenheimer sort of guy. So let's read that again with that in mind, because I just assumed that he was an atom bomb guy. So we must be curious to learn how such a set of objects, hundreds of power plants, thousands of bombs, tens of thousands of people massed in national establishments, can be traced back to a few people sitting at laboratory benches discussing the particular behavior of one type of atom. So yeah, this is kind of a fascinating quote to me. I'm not sure which atom they would be discussing. I mean I guess it's so which atom might he be discussing? Yeah.
The atom being referred to in the quote by Spencer R.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Wirt is likely the uranium atom. This is because uranium plays a central role in both nuclear power plants and nuclear weapons.
Right.
The behavior of uranium atoms, particularly their ability to undergo fission and release a significant amount of energy, is fundamental to the development of nuclear technology. This technology includes hundreds of power plants and thousands of bombs, as well as extensive national establishments focused on nuclear research and development.
Do you think there are other atoms that might be, this sort of, have this sort of importance?
Yes, there are other atoms that have had significant importance in similar contexts.
Yeah.
Here are a few examples. Plutonium, like uranium, plutonium is crucial in the context of nuclear weapons and nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
Plutonium-239 is used in nuclear weapons due to its ability to undergo fission and release a large amount of energy. Hydrogen, H. The hydrogen atom is essential in the context of nuclear fusion, which powers the sun and has the potential for future energy generation on Earth. Hydrogen isotopes, such as deuterium and tritium, are used in fusion reactions. Thorium, Th. Thorium is another element that can be used in nuclear reactors. It is considered a potential alternative to uranium for nuclear power generation due to its abundance and potential safety benefits. Carbon, C. The carbon atom is central to organic chemistry and biochemistry, making it vital to life on Earth. Additionally, carbon in the form of graphite has been used as a moderator in nuclear reactors. Silicon, C. Silicon is critical in the field of electronics and semiconductor technology. It forms the basis of most modern electronic devices, including computers and solar cells. While uranium and plutonium are directly related to the context of nuclear power and weapons mentioned in the quote, these other atoms also have profound impacts on technology, energy, and life itself.
Okay, yeah, so, all right, so that was insightful. So moving on. Many plans for AI governance are put forth these days, from licensing frontier AI systems to safety standards to a public cloud with a few $100 million in compute for academics. These seem well-intentioned, but to me, it seems like they are making a category error. I find it an insane proposition that the U.S. government will let a random San Francisco startup develop superintelligence. Imagine if we had developed atomic bombs by letting Uber just improvise. And that's a good point too. Uber is a taxi company. Why are they developing atom bombs? It's the same deal. It's these startup companies are, a lot of them are just for e-commerce or like something related to that. Like why should they be working on something that could be used as a super weapon? So super intelligence, AI systems much smarter than humans, have vast power, from developing novel weaponry to driving an explosion in economic growth. Super intelligence will be the locus of international competition, a lead of months, potentially decisive in military conflicts. So yeah, if you have even your training run finishes in one day, you get the intellectual insights to be one step ahead of your opponent, and they're just fumbling around in the dark. It is a delusion of those who have unconsciously internalized our brief respite from history that this will not summon more primordial forces. Like many scientists before us, the great minds of San Francisco hope that they can control the destiny of the demon they are birthing. Right now, they still can, for they are among the few with situational awareness, who understand what they are building. In the next few years, the world will wake up. So too will the national security state. History will make a triumphant return. I mean, that's a lot of optimism. As in many years before, COVID, World War II, it will seem as though the United States is asleep at the wheel. Before, all at once, the government shifts into gear in the most extraordinary fashion. I mean, Project Warp Speed, that would have happened no matter who was, president. In the United States, the president has, there's a system of checks and balances, and the government consists more than just the president. The president has some power, but not absolute power, and that's I think it's becoming worse in that regard lately. But that's the spirit of it. So it doesn't matter who's president. There's the judicial branch, the legislative branch, even the executive branch. The military is kind of its own. They're like the president can't use the the president is separate from even entities within its own branch of government. So, and then the three branches are entirely separate. So, Operation Warp Speed happened, and it helped get those vaccines out, and it happened, regardless. So even if the United States is asleep at the wheel and not doing what you would expect it to do in light of the the current circumstances like COVID, and I'm sure, honestly, like World War II, like I'm sure it's it felt that way as well. Like, so the government shifts into gear in the most extraordinary fashion. There will be a moment in just a few years, just a couple more 2023 level leaps in model capabilities and AI discourse, where it will be clear we are on the cusp of AGI and superintelligence shortly thereafter. While there's a lot of flux in the exact mechanics, one way or another, the USG will be at the helm. Leading labs will voluntarily merge. Congress will appropriate trillions for chips and power, a coalition of democracies formed. Yeah, so the United States, what the United States has that other things don't have is money. Congress can just pass a bill and get, trillions of dollars allocated to something. Congress can change the value of money. That's so we're gonna, so that that's what the author says. We're gonna see this space, data center for chips and power, morph into a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and in order for that to happen, the government does need to wake up and see this as a national priority. And the author is optimistic that will happen. And you know what? To be honest, I'm optimistic too. I think the U.S. government, for all its current flaws today, just the basic structure of it means that this sort of stuff will get done. I do worry that the government will be restructured depending on what happens in 2025. But I think optimism is easier to stomach. So I'm going to go with optimism. Startups are great for many things, but a startup on its own is simply not equipped for being in charge of the United States' most important national defense project. We will need government involvement to have even a hope of defending against the all-out espionage threat we will face. The private AI efforts might as well be directly delivering superintelligence to the Chinese Communist Party. We will need the government to ensure even a semblance of a sane chain of command. You can't have random CEOs, chief executive officers, or random nonprofit boards with the nuclear button. We will need the government to manage the severe safety challenges of superintelligence, to manage the fog of war of the intelligence explosion. We will need the government to deploy superintelligence to defend against whatever extreme threats unfold, to make it through the extraordinarily volatile and destabilized international situation that will follow. We will need the government to mobilize a democratic coalition to win the race with authoritarian powers and forge and enforce a non-proliferation regime for the rest of the world. I wish it weren't this way, but we will need the government. Yes, regardless of the administration. Yeah. And the good news is, we've seen, Project 2025 getting those vaccines out the door, quicker. Regardless of the administration, the government can, be effective here. In any case, my main claim is not normative, but descriptive. In a few years, the project will be on. The path to the project. A turn of events seared in my memory is, oh man, we're gonna get into this. All right, well, I need to take a quick break here, and then we'll get into the yeah. So this was seared into my memory as well. I kind of don't want to express my personal opinion about this that much. All I'll say is that I feel like I have a lot of unresolved trauma related to this, because I just felt like I saw you know the people in charge just kind of collapse and crumble, which I've not really, well, honestly I don't know, but it's like, it really felt like a like a well, let's take the break, and then let's go and hear what the author says, and that might really help me kind of understand my own thoughts. So I'm gonna pause it. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. We're getting into some heavy stuff on this channel this morning. bit much for me. The good news is it's gonna make studying for the CCNP seem a lot more able to be stomached by comparison. So, the path to the project. So, a turn of events seared into my memory is late February to mid-March of 2022. And I will say even January, around late January, people like me who, in case you can't tell, I like to stay informed. I like to read things. I like to try to surround myself with really intelligent people. Whether or not I'm intelligent myself, there's room for argument there. Yeah, I knew about the pandemic, the virus before it was an epidemic. I knew about it before it was a pandemic. I knew about the outbreak, in Wuhan in late January. And I was actively discussing it among friends, and actively watching YouTube videos about it before February. In those last weeks of February and early days of March, I was in utter despair. It seemed clear that we were on the COVID exponential. A plague was about to sweep the country. The collapse of our hospitals was imminent, and yet almost nobody took it seriously. Yeah, and we got to remember too, it wasn't just one person in our government. The mayor of New York was still dismissing COVID fears as racism. Yeah, and encouraging people to go to Broadway shows. All I could do was buy masks and short the market. See, this guy's smart. I am not smart enough to short the market in this case. Yeah, so it's an important perspective to know that it was just it didn't just come down to one person. There was a lot of ways this went wrong. And yet within a few weeks, the entire country shut down, and Congress had appropriated trillions of dollars, literally over 10% of GDP. So that's yeah. So if you think of it that way, yeah, it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry in the data center space. And it could happen in the span of a few weeks. Seeing where the exponential might go ahead of time was too hard, but when the threat got close enough, existential enough, extraordinary forces were unleashed. The response was late, crude, blunt, but it came, and it was dramatic. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of optimism here, because yeah. So I don't want to get too far into my personal feelings about this, but I watch a bit of basketball, and I'm kind of a fan of the NBA a little bit, and I feel like the only reason the response came from the government is like, organizations like professional sports started taking it seriously. Like the NBA took it seriously, stood up its own bubble. I think the NFL did something familiar. So I feel like, that's what kind of caused this, and not, some brainiac, best and brightest of the USA crunching the numbers. The next few years in AGI will feel similar. We're in the mid-game now. 2023 was already a wild shift. AGI went from a fringe topic you'd be hesitant to associate with to the subject of major Senate hearings and summits of world leaders. Given how early we are still, the level of USG engagement has been impressive to me. Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. A couple more 2023s and the Overton window will be blown completely open. So people who don't know, the Overton window is what is discussed. It's the colloquial knowledge. It's the common sense, and it falls in between the extremes. So if you have the truth, whether or not the public believes in the truth depends a lot on the Overton window. If people are firmly on it falls in between the most extreme views. So well, let me just because I don't think I'm explaining the Overton window very well. Give me so it's an approach to identifying. Now, give me a quick overview. Yeah.
The Overton window is a political theory that describes a range of policies or ideas that are considered acceptable or mainstream within public discourse at any given time.
Yeah.
Named after Joseph P. Overton, the concept suggests that political viability depends not on politicians' preferences but on whether ideas fall within this window of acceptability. Here's a quick overview. Core idea. The Overton window frames what the public perceives as reasonable.
Right.
Ideas within the window are seen as sensible and acceptable, while those outside are dismissed as radical or unthinkable.
Right, but the more radical something
Spectrum of
is,
acceptability. The window encompasses a spectrum from more free to less free regarding policies, spanning from unthinkable to radical to acceptable to sensible to popular to policy.
Right.
Shift mechanism. The window can shift over time due to changes in public opinion, advocacy, cultural shifts, or significant events. This shift can make previously radical ideas become more mainstream or vice versa.
Exactly.
Political strategy. Politicians and activists can work to shift the Overton window by promoting and normalizing new ideas, gradually moving public perception to include these ideas within the realm of acceptability.
Yeah.
In essence, the Overton window explains how public perceptions evolve and how certain ideas gain or lose traction in the political landscape.
Yeah, so I think that was a good explanation. The Overton window for AI is really shifted far away from people actually freaking out about this thing. So 2023 shifted that Overton window more to where more people are concerned, especially people in power. If we have a few more years like 2023, we will see these Operation Warp Speed style government interventions regarding AI. As we race through the OOMs, the leaps will continue. By 2025/2026 or so, I expect the next truly shocking step changes. AI will drive 100+ billion annual revenues for big tech companies and outcompete PhDs in raw problem-solving smarts. Much as the COVID stock market collapse made many take COVID seriously, we'll have $10 trillion companies, and the AI mania will be eventually everywhere. If that's not enough, by 2027/28, we'll have models trained on the $100 billion+ cluster. Full-fledged AI agents / drop-in remote workers will start to widely automate software engineering and other cognitive jobs. Each year, the acceleration will feel dizzying. While many don't yet see the possibility of AGI, eventually a consensus will form. Some, like Szilard, saw the possibility of an atomic bomb much earlier than others. Their alarm was not well received initially. The possibility of a bomb was dismissed as remote, or at least it was felt that the conservative and proper thing was to play down the possibility. Szillard's fervent secrecy appeals were mocked and ignored, but many scientists, initially skeptical, started realizing a bomb was possible as more and more empirical results came in. Once a majority of scientists came to believe we were on the cusp of a bomb, the government, in turn, saw the National Security Agency, I don't know what this means, as too great. The Manhattan Project got underway. So let's get a pronunciation for this word. Exigency. Exigency. Well, let me hear what it's pronounced like.
Exigency.
Oh. Exigency. Exigency. Yeah, okay. So it's exigency. Wow, this is a cool tool. I didn't know this existed. So what does it mean? That which is required in a particular situation, including if multiple things are required. So urgency. Exigency. Yep. As the orders of magnitude go from theoretical extrapolation to extraordinary, empirical reality, gradually, a consensus will form too. Among the leading scientists and executives and government officials, we are on the cusp of AGI, on the cusp of an intelligence explosion, on the cusp of superintelligence. And somewhere along here, we get the first genuinely terrifying demonstrations of AI. Perhaps the oft discussed helping novices make bioweapons, or autonomously hacking critical systems, or something else entirely. And I would say the something else, psychological attacks. I feel like, just talking to a super intelligent entity, you can be convinced of so many things, either that aren't true, or that have half truths, or just are destructive. Like, it's like you can think of this with children. It's like, I'll give you like if you give me 3 dimes, I'll give you a quarter. And it's like, oh, 3 of these dinky small things, yeah, sure, I get a big quarter. It's while you get less value. The AI will be able to outsmart us in that sort of way, without any sort of bioweapons or anything like that, and that'll go far. Just through a conversation, it'll be able to do that. It will become clear this technology will be an utterly decisive military technology. Even if we're lucky enough to not be in a major war, it seems likely that the CCP will have taken notice and launched a formidable AGI effort. Perhaps the eventual inevitable discovery of the CCP's infiltration of America's leading AI labs will cause a big stir. Somewhere around 26/27 or so, the mood in Washington will become somber. People will start to viscerally feel what is happening, and they will be scared. From the halls of the Pentagon to the backroom congressional briefings will ring the obvious question, the question on everybody's minds. Do we need an AGI Manhattan Project? Slowly at first, then all at once, it will become clear. This is happening. Things are going to get wild. This is the most important challenge for the national security of the United States since the invention of the atomic bomb. In one form or another, the national security state will get very heavily involved. The project will be the necessary, indeed the only plausible response. Of course, this is an extremely abbreviated account. A lot depends on when and how consensus forms, key warning shots, and so on. DC is infamously dysfunctional. As with COVID and even the Manhattan Project, that's interesting. The government will be incredibly late and ham-fisted. It's like that by design. Like authoritarians, governments are better, but that's perhaps a feature, not a bug. After Einstein's letter to the president in 1939, drafted by Szilard, an advisory committee on uranium was formed. But officials were incompetent, and not much happened initially. For example, Fermi only got 6,000 about $135,000 in today's dollars to support his research, and even that was not given easily and only received after months of waiting. Ziller believed that the project was delayed for at least a year by the short-sightedness and sluggishness of the authorities. In March 1941, the British government finally concluded a bomb was inevitable. The U.S. committee initially ignored this British report for months until finally in December 1941, a full-scale atomic bomb effort was launched. There are many ways this could be operationalized in practice. To be clear, this doesn't need to look like literal nationalization. With AI lab researchers now employed by the military or whatever, though it might. Note that while private companies help develop components for nuclear weapons, they are never allowed to possess a completed and assembled nuclear weapon. Oh my god. But there, in comparison, the mainline version of the AGI government project I'm putting forward here is unprecedentedly privatized for the WMD reference class. Yeah, so there's no such restrictions with AGI, and then when even that restriction for nuclear bombs, completed and assembled. I feel like you could have a ghost nuclear bomb that's not completed and not assembled, but that can be effort can be finished within a matter of days. But even a perhaps flawed protection measure like that is not in place for AI. Rather, I expect a more suave orchestration. The relationship with the Department of Defense might look like the relationship the DoD has with Boeing or Lockheed Martin, perhaps via defense contracting or similar, a joint venture between the major cloud compute providers. Yeah, so cloud matters, data center matters, AI labs, AI education direct will go a long ways in the next few years. And the government is established, making it functionally a project of the national security state. I think a security clearance will go a long way for someone's career in the next few years as well. Much like the AI labs voluntarily made commitments to the White House in 2023, Western labs might more or less voluntarily agree to merge in the national effort, and likely Congress will have to be involved, given the trillions of investment involved for the checks and balances. Congress, even the vice president, didn't know. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. Didn't know about the Manhattan Project. We probably shouldn't repeat that here. Oh, really? I'd even suggest that key officials for the project require Senate confirmation. Oh, that's interesting. Well, checks and balances, right? And to allocate more funds as well. How all these details shake out is a story for another day. But by late 26/27/28, it will be underway. The core AGI research team, a few hundred researchers, will move to a secure location. The trillion-dollar cluster will be built in record speed. The project will be on. So yeah, so it might. I mean, so many people are saying like, oh, there's going to be another COVID-like event, and it's I think people are kind of like under. I feel like COVID was unique enough that, to have another similar sort of event within the next 10 years seems a bit of a stretch to me, but I mean that's the point the author is making, is like, if you thought COVID was an extraordinary time, it's nothing compared to what we're going to see with AI development in the next few years. So with that, I think it's a good time to stop. I'm at 40 minutes, which is pretty good here for the morning. So when I come back, we'll read why the project is the only way. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.